Hello and welcome. In today's video we're going to explore the fascinating life of Tabby Aykroyd, known in Haworth Village as Tabby Brontë because of her long-standing role in the Brontë household. As the oldest and longest serving servant, Tabby wasn't just an employee, she was a cherished member of the Brontë family, loved for her wit, her warmth and that strong Yorkshire character. Tabby had a presence in that home that shaped the very heart of the Brontës' daily lives. In this video, we'll take a closer look at that real Tabby, the woman who balanced affection with that no-nonsense Yorkshire spirit that made her unforgettable. We'll explore how her influence quietly seeped into the Brontës family stories and characters, offering insight into the home she helped create and the family she served. So settle in and let's uncover the life of the woman who helped build the foundations of one of the most famous literary families in history. So you might hear a bit of background noise. The school children have decided to come out and play in the field next to this one. And so there is a bit of squealing going on. And also there are some tractors in the field over that way now deciding to do some work. So there's a bit of beeping from tractors. So what was originally meant to be this lovely peaceful chat, it suddenly just turned into this chaos of noise. And yes, I do have cat gloves on, but they're great because ta-da! Keeping me warm, hence the hat and the scarf. So yes, any background noise that's slightly unusual, don't worry, it's just life in the village. In 1824, at the age of 53, Tabby Aykroyd arrived at the Brontë Parsonage to take up her role as servant. She replaced two previous servants, Nancy and Sarah Gars, who were sisters, who'd been with the family from 1816 and 1818. Tabby arrived just before Emily Brontë left for Cowanbridge School, stepping into a household that had already seen many changes. Haworth in the 19th century was a small, isolated village with its steep cobbled streets and harsh winters. Life at the parsonage was also shaped by its position on the edge of the wild Yorkshire moors, with the church and the graveyard sort of dominating the landscape. Servants like Tabby played a crucial role in keeping such a household running, taking on tasks such as cooking and cleaning and of course tending to the fires in an era when domestic was physically demanding. Tabby, however, was more than just a housekeeper. She became a fixture in the Brontë family, her presence bringing this sort of warmth and familiarity to the household. Having grown up in Yorkshire, she spoke in a very rich local dialect, which the Brontë children would later weave into their writing, such as Wuthering Heights. Her arrival marked the beginning of a relationship that would last over 3 decades, through triumphs and tragedy alike. While Tabby was entering this new phase of her life at the parsonage, the Brontë household was also undergoing significant change. Maria and Elizabeth had already started their time at Cowanbridge School. Charlotte and Emily followed, leaving only Branwell and Anne at home. This once lively house was suddenly much quieter, with only 2 siblings under the watchful eye of their father Patrick and their strict but devoted Aunt Branwell. Tabby's presence became especially important during this time. With so many of the children away, she provided not only practical support in keeping the household running, but also the warmth and the companionship for the remaining Brontë children. Her storytelling, I'm sure, was rich with Yorkshire dialect and folklore, and it left this lasting impression on all the children during this time, which they must have soaked up and used in their stories. Despite Aunt Branwell's best effort to instill discipline and decorum, the Brontë children were full of energy and imagination. Their days were often filled with adventurous games and spirited performances and mischievous antics. Whether they were acting out dramatic plays, inventing elaborate stories, or playing on the moors around the parsonage, the Brontë siblings could always be counted on for noise and excitement. Tabby, who had become a constant presence in the household, found herself swept up in this lively atmosphere. Her loyalty to the family was unwavering, and she dutifully carried out her tasks while also keeping an eye on the children's antics. However, the noise and the chaos of their childhood sometimes provided too much for her. On one such occasion, the children's boisterous behaviour drove Tabby to seek refuge at her nephew William's house. She was so taken aback by the energy that she claimed to William, "I originally planned to read Tabby's words in a Yorkshire accent myself, but it quickly became clear I couldn't do it justice. So my lovely husband, who is from Yorkshire, stepped in and did it for me."
William, you mun go up to Mr. Bronte's, for I'm sure yon childers all going mad. And I daren't stop in th' house any longer, William, and I will stay here while you come back.
When William arrived at the parsonage, he found the children in the midst of their gleeful joke, roaring with laughter at how they'd managed to ruffle Tabby's feathers. Though her frustration was evident, Tabby's enduring care of the children was equally clear, and this episode would become one of many that highlighted her integral role in their daily lives. Despite her occasional exasperation, Tabby was in many ways a part of the Brontë siblings' childhood. She was not just a servant, she was like a figure of comfort, routine, and sometimes even a sounding board for their wild ideas. Her relationship with the children, especially as they grew older and their lives became more complicated, remained an important part of their domestic world. Oh, it's a very big, what colour is it? Green tractor. It's a bit smelly, so I think they must be putting something on the fields. The joy of the countryside when it's a bit smelly. Right, should we get going? At Christmas in 1836, Tabby suffered a terrible accident. Whilst running errands in the village, she slipped on ice and shattered her leg. She lay in the cold for some time before being rescued and taken to the druggist shop. No surgeon, was available until the following morning, so she was carried back to the parsonage in great pain. Oh, can you imagine? Charlotte wrote to Ellen Nussey expressing how distressed they all were, as Tabby was like one of their own family. Aunt Branwell argued that Tabby should be sent to her sister's house to recover, but the Brontë sisters refused. They believed it was their duty to care for her as she had cared for them. The disagreement escalated into this full-blown battle of wills, with the girls even going on strike, refusing to eat until their aunt relented. Eventually, Aunt Branwell conceded and Tabby remained at the parsonage to be nursed back to health. Yay! Charlotte later worried about Ellen's visit, writing, "Should Tabby die while you're in the house, I should never forgive myself." Although she recovered, Tabby was left with a permanent limp. It's another beautiful day. It's a bit bright. I feel like I need blinkers like a horse so that I don't have to squint. So I'm sorry if I'm giving you a permanent squinty face. But yeah, it's quite bright. If I put sunnies on though, it's not time for sunnies. Sunglasses, that's what I meant, sunnies. Yeah, anyway. Shall we? Yeah, let's just get on. As the Brontë siblings grew older, their lives took them in different directions. Charlotte and Anne left for work as governesses, and Branwell pursued various short-lived careers. Emily, after spending some time away at school, including obviously Roe Head and Brussels, eventually returned to the parsonage. And it was during these years, after the other siblings had disappeared, that she and Tabby developed this particularly close bond. By the 1840s, Tabby was lame, the result of the severe leg injury that she'd suffered a few years before. And despite her physical limitations, she continued to offer assistance, yeah, I bet she did, where she could, limping around the kitchen, sharing a deep knowledge of the Yorkshire ways. Emily, often left as the main housekeeper, must have found great comfort in her presence. Tabby's stories, thick with dialect and folklore of the moors, lightly shaped Emily's imagination, and it's easy to see her influence in Wuthering Heights, particularly in the character of Nellie Dean, the elderly servant, who tells much of the novel's tale. Their companionship went beyond daily chores. Tabby was a link to the local traditions, superstitions and history that absolutely fascinated Emily. And while Emily may have been known for her solitude nature and that deep connection to the wild landscape, in the warmth of the parsonage kitchen, with Tabby by her side, she found another kind of grounding, a steady presence, steeped in the old world of Yorkshire. And no doubt it enriched her storytelling and her daily life. Oh, cold hands. Even with my part glove, part mitten, I've got cold hands. Where I grew up, hands were called puddies. That's what we nicknamed hands. Crazy. In the heart of the parsonage, the kitchen was a place of warmth and refuge, especially during those colder months. The Brontë children often gathered around the glowing fire, the flickering flames providing a scene of comfort and security. It was here that many of the most imaginative conversations and debates took place. The kitchen, with its humble surroundings, became a backdrop for some of their most cherished moments and memories. Tabby, as a constant presence in their life, was often involved in these conversations. She had a sharp wit and a strong opinion, and the children frequently engaged in lively debates with her. One memorable evening, the topic of discussion centred around whether or not they could light a candle. After a spirited argument in which Tabby no doubt played her usual part as voice of reason, the children's imagination soared. The debate sparked a new idea, a game that would fuel their creativity for years to come. Each child would choose an island and populate it with important figures of the time, such as political leaders, authors, artists, and even fictional characters. The islands would then become the foundation of an entire imaginary world where the siblings could create stories and invent scenarios and bring their own visions to life. The Islanders game was born from this simple yet brilliant idea, a game that not only entertained the children but also served as a means of self-expression and giving them space to explore their thoughts and their interests in a playful yet meaningful way. The game was more than just a pastime. It became a way for the children to forge connections to the outside world through their imagination. And as they populated their islands with noble figures, they also explored deeper themes such as power, influence, and the roles people played in shaping society. The kitchen, where all these discussions and games began, thus became the cradle of the Brontë children's creative genius. Tabby, though sometimes exasperated by their boundless energy, must have played an important role in shaping the atmosphere in which these moments of creativity flourished. Her presence provides a stable and supportive environment, allowing the children to feel free to dream, create and engage in stories that would eventually become the cornerstone of their literary lives. Ellen Nussey, the Brontes' close friend, described Tabby as faithful and trustworthy. Qualities were at the heart of the role within the Brontë household. Ellen also remarked that Tabby was very quaint in appearance, a reflection on her distinct character and steadfast presence within the family. Though advancing in years, Tabby remained energetic and fully committed to her duties, often accompanying the Brontë children on walks when Branwell was unavailable. Beyond this practical support, she was a constant companion, providing the family with both reliability and a sense of connection to the outside world. Tabby's loyalty to the Brontes was unparalleled. She refused to indulge in gossip about them, always protective of their privacy. And when villagers did express curiosity about the Bronte children, asking if they were fearfully learned or making other speculative comments, Tabby would quickly dismiss such questions and march off in a huff to report these intrusions back to the family. But there was another side to Tabby that provided invaluable to the Brontes. She had an appetite for local gossip, eagerly gathering news from the villagers and bringing it back to the parsonage. Her familiarity with everyone in the community meant that she could offer the Bronte siblings glimpses of the world outside, something that they, as individuals who preferred to keep themselves to themselves, might have otherwise have missed. In fact, Tabby's love of sharing the latest village happenings may have helped the Bronte sisters develop the rich, vivid characters in their novels. The people and the stories she relayed would have offered a wealth of material, from the comings and goings of the local population to the quirks and the eccentricities of life in Haworth. Through Tabby, the Bronte sisters gained access to the undercurrent of village life, the kind of details that often found their way into their writing. Whether consciously or not, Tabby helped shape the world that the sisters created in their novels, offering a window into a social sphere that they were not always eager to engage with directly, but nevertheless observe with keen interest. Oh, it's a chilly one, so I've come prepared today. I brought a flask of tea and I thought this will do just the job when I'm recording outside in the cold. So, flask of tea, and I brought, it's not a mug, but it's a cup, and it has carrots and rhubarb on it. It's a little plastic one, but I thought, oh, look at that. I only put a little bit in because it will go cold quite quickly. But I thought, oh, I'll just put my gloves on as well. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a little brew in between my filming? You know, warm myself up a bit. Nice cup of tea. But if you notice, tea from a flask has a very particular taste. It's very different. I make it in a teapot, then pop it in the flask, but it still has that flask taste no matter what. Reminds me of camping and, you know, days out. I should have brought a biscuit. Oh, and I could have like a proper picnic on a bench. So I thought I'd come out today and do some filming outside because it's such a beautiful day. It's really cold, but it's got that feeling of crisp freshness. I've been on a dog walk this morning and I had such a lovely, refreshing walk. I wanted to come out again and film here. So I've come onto this bench on the edge of this field, and there's some sheep in this field over behind me. I don't know if they're about. And yeah, I just thought it'd be beautiful, soak up some of the sun. So hope you don't mind, guys, you're coming along with me. But at least you can sit at home in the warmth and watch this, and you don't get cold fingers and feet like me. Even in her later years, Tabby maintained her sharp wit and strong opinion, which she never hesitated to voice. In 1850, when Charlotte Brontë decided to have her portrait painted by the renowned artist George Richmond, Tabby was the only person to voice disapproval. She insisted that the likeness did not capture Charlotte accurately, and that it was made her appear much older than she actually was. Her opinion was so strong that it seemed as though she genuinely believed Richmond's depiction was far from the true Charlotte. However, as Charlotte herself widely noted, Tabby's sense of artistic judgment could sometimes be a bit off. She humorously recounts how Tabby had once mistaken a portrait of the Duke of Wellington for a painting of Mr. Patrick Brontë. This anecdote serves to highlight not only Tabby's enduring quirks, but also the close, familiar bond that she shared with the Brontë family, where even such disagreements over a portrait were accepted with fondness. Tabby's reaction to the portrait also speaks to her deep care for the family, as she undoubtedly wanted to protect Charlotte's image. perhaps even perceiving the artist's interpretation as not quite capturing the essence of her beloved employer. Despite Tabby's sometimes questionable artistic insight, her honest opinion and steadfast loyalty were a constant presence in Charlotte's life, demonstrating that even as the years passed, Tabby's influence remained strong in the family circle. By the late 1840s, Tabby's health began to decline, and the once strong woman who'd served at the Brontë families for over 3 decades struggled with various ailments. In 1849, both Tabby and her young companion Martha fell ill, and during this period, Tabby suffered another fall, this time from a kitchen chair, an accident that aggravated her previous leg injury. The leg, which had plagued her for many years, became ulcerated again, making movement very painful. Then, in 1851, Tabby contracted the flu, and in a cruel twist of fate, she passed it on to poor Martha Brown. Tabby's final days were a stark contrast to the vibrant presence that she'd once been in the Brontë household. And on the 17th of February 1855, the same day Charlotte Brontë wrote her will, Tabby passed away at the age of 84. At this time, all of the Brontë siblings had passed. Emily, Anne and Branwell had already died, and Charlotte, though still alive, was weeks away from her own death. Tabby was buried in the small graveyard in Haworth, just beyond the parsonage wall, where many locals were laid to rest. Though time has worn the stone, the inscription on a gravestone still remains legible, a testament to a years of service and devotion, and it reads, "Faithful servant of the Brontë family for over 30 years." Her burial just beyond the parsonage wall symbolised that closeness that she shared with the family that she'd served for so long. Tabby's passing would have been a significant loss to poor Charlotte, who had known her throughout her life and likely felt her absence keenly, even in the final weeks before her own death. Though she's no longer physically present, Tabby's legacy continues in the memories of those that she's helped raise, and in the stories and the news that she shared, likely influencing the lives of the Brontës and the characters they created even long after her death. William, I've got to try and do a Yorkshire accent here. I might have to add that later because I can't do Yorkshire. Despite her occasional exasperation, getting comfy. I can hear planes. I can't see them. Right. Who no doubt are richer stories in daily life, and I don't know what I've just talked about. And Tabby suffered an accident that Thank you so much for watching today. I would love to hear your thoughts on Tabby Brontë and her role in the Brontë family. So, do you think the stories and that village gossip that Tabby told the Brontë siblings helped them with their writing? And do you think that Tabby symbolises a true old-fashioned Yorkshire woman? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That would be great. So like I say each week, please do that whole likey, subscribey thing, because it really does help me out and it lets YouTube know that we want to watch more Brontë content. So keep warm, have a good weekend, and I will see you next Friday for more Brontë adventures. Take care. Bye.